Hi there, you're watching Market Cafe on ET Now with me, Shreyanshi Singh and Priyanka Uppal, and over the next 1 hour we'll get you news and updates from within the country as well as across the globe. Also tell you which stocks you should then be keeping on your radar as well. But first things first, speaking of stocks, let's take a look at Wall Street then.
Morning, Shreyanshi. There were Fed crucial minutes of the meeting which had to come yesterday, and that has signaled that there could be a higher risk to inflation going ahead, and hence traders were anticipating there could be a scenario of interest rate for higher for longer, and that's what actually created a little tremors in US markets yesterday. If you see S&P, that one posted a modest gain on Wednesday. Traders was assessing that the potential of future how Fed rate cut is going to pan out. There is a persistent inflationary pressure. Broader market index did add at 0.6%, closed above 5,900. Nasdaq, that one slipped marginally only. It closed at nearly 19,478 level. Dow Jones do outperform. Now we have earnings trigger going ahead there as well. Three majors, they are though on a pace for a second consecutive weekly loss. And the minutes actually clearly indicated that that reflected that all the committee participants were little bothered about the inflation pace going ahead. That's what we saw, that the modest kind of gains which came in US markets yesterday, though Dow did outperform yesterday. And in fact, bond yield has also crossed a level of 4.7. This is a level that's the highest level seen after April 2024. So bond yield did create some news yesterday for sure.
Well, absolutely. So nothing to write home about. Just a slight recovery is what we saw coming in, at least when it comes to the S&P 500 as well as the Dow. But with that, let's also take a quick look then at what oil prices then did. Because when you take a look at oil prices, fell more than 1%. Weighed by that stronger dollar as well as large bills in US fuel inventories last week. So this is a number that we've been tracking for a very long time, because largely you've seen prices being range bound, except for this year, except for the start of this year, in fact, where they broke out of that range that we saw coming in for oil prices. So currently, when you take a look at the moves coming in for oil prices, Brent crude was down just about 78 cents or over a percent, a little over a percent. Around those $73 a barrel levels is where Brent crude was also at. And when you take a look at US WTI as well, you're taking a look at a downtick of just about 1% coming in there as well. $73 a barrel as well. That one was also at thereabouts. So those were the kind of levels that you saw coming in for Brent as well as WTI. Both benchmarks had risen more than 1% earlier in the session. So broke out of that range, but also still pulled back a little bit. A stronger dollar is what was pressuring prices. Along with that, you did have that number coming in terms of US crude oil inventories. But other than that, limiting the losses, you do have oil output from the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. That is something that fell in December after 2 months of increases, as field maintenance in the UAE was something that the market was looking at. Also offsetting a Nigerian output hike. So that is something that we were tracking, at least when it comes to oil prices. And when you take a look at gold as well, that's the one on the flip side that was climbing, just about 0.4% uptick coming in for gold as well, on the back of that weaker than expected payrolls report as well coming in for December. That is something that provided a little bit of reassurance in the market as well, that the Fed could be less cautious about easing rates this year, and that is something that the market has been tracking, at least when it comes to gold.
Absolutely. So these were the cues coming in from US markets, gold and crude. Now let's understand which are the key events to watch out for today. We are starting with the earnings season today. TCS to report numbers today. Apart from that, globally, if you talk about, let's talk about India first. So we have a Nifty weekly expiry today. We have NFI data on the tab today. From US market is though shut today. So that means we won't have US cues for tomorrow. Markets are closed to honor former President Jimmy Carter. Wholesale inventory also at the top. Also, initial jobless claim data. Traders will assess the key inputs from this particular economic indicator also. From Eurozone, retail sales data, and China would be releasing its CPI as well as PPI figures. There are some other events also. BOE Deputy Governor is slated to speak. Richmond, which is the Fed president, he's slated to speak. So let's see what kind of cues we gather from these events all over the world.
Well, absolutely. So those are the cues that we're watching out for. But on to the big headlines then this morning. Minutes from Fed's December meeting show that officials have expressed renewed fears over inflation and Trump's policy control. Then a clear indication that the central bank will here on move at a slower pace with respect to rate cuts, largely on account of uncertainty. Without calling out Trump by name, the meeting summary featured at least 4 mentions about the effect that changes in immigration and trade policy could have on the US economy then. Among other notable points, you did have most officials also indicating that while they see inflation gravitating down to 2%, they also don't forecast that happening until 2027 and also expect that near-term risks are to the upside. In fact, the dot plot of individual members' expectations also showed that they anticipate 2 more rate cuts in 2026 and possibly another 1 or 2 after, ultimately taking the long-run Fed funds rate down to 3% as well.
Okay, meanwhile, jobless claim in the United States, that one fell unexpectedly to 201,000 last week. Now, this is the lowest in nearly a year. This, of course, comes a day ahead of that key non-farm payroll report, which is due on Friday amid rising yields and flaring concerns over inflation and, of course, the policy uncertainty under Trump. Remember, signs of a steadily cooling labour market could allow the Federal Reserve to keep interest rates unchanged in January month against the backdrop of still high inflation.
Rather than moving on to some stock-specific news, then investment banking giant Jefferies posted a strong set of Q4 results with both overall earnings as well as revenue surpassing estimates and a strong show across businesses. Investment banking net revenue surged 73% on a year-on-year basis, driven by record advisory revenues of $597 million as well. When you take a look at capital markets, net revenue also increased to $652 million, up from $486 million in the prior year quarter. Shares, however, were flat following the earnings report.
Okay, now shifting focus to quantum computer stocks, that one tumbled after Nvidia CEO Jensen Huang contended that the technology would not be very useful for decades. Among the widely held names in the sector, diving more than 30% are Rigetti computing, D-Wave quantum computing, and even IonQ. Speaking at Nvidia's Analyst Day, Huang suggested that quantum computers may not make meaningful contributions for 15 years, but he did add that many people believe that the technology will be very useful in 20 years to come.
All right, then moving on, Joe Biden takes one final stand to limit AI chip exports. In fact, the Biden administration will reportedly further curb AI chip exports by Nvidia and Advanced Micro Devices just days before leaving office in a final push in his effort to keep advanced technologies out of the hands of China and Russia. The move, in fact, aims to concentrate artificial intelligence development in friendly nations and get businesses around the world to align with American standards.
Some somber news which is coming in from US, California. Raging wildfires surrounded Los Angeles, killing at least 5 people, destroying hundreds of homes and stretching firefighting resources and water supplies to the limit as more than 1 lakh people were ordered to evacuate. Fierce winds hindered firefighting operations and fueled the fires, which have burned unimpeded since they began on Tuesday. As per officials, a total 5 separate fires burned in Los Angeles County itself, none contained so far.
Alright, then with that, it's time for a very quick breather on the show. When we come back, we'll take stock of how the Asian markets are faring, so don't go anywhere. Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying tuned in. Well, let's get to a check as promised going on the Asian markets then. And when you take a look at Asia, then you're looking at, firstly, let's take a look at Japan's benchmark Nikkei. That is the one that slipped just about 0.7% there on your screens as well. And Australia's ASX 200 as well. Similar moves coming in for that one as well, because that is holding on to that tinge of red on your screens as well. 0.6% downtick coming in for that one as well. And when you take a look at South Korea's KOSPI as well, also tumbling in trade, 0.6% downtick coming in for that one as well. So similar moves coming in for all 3 of these indices. Now you do have China's consumer prices in December that are edged up just about 0.1% on a year-on-year basis, in line with expectations then, but consumption has failed to pick up despite a range of stimulus measures introduced by Beijing since last September, stoking deflation worries as well. Shanghai on your screens downtick about 0.3% coming in for Shanghai as well. And even when you take a look at Hang Seng on the flip side, that is the one that is holding on to a tinge of green, marginally in the green as we speak. The only one holding on to a tinge of green in terms of the entire pack coming in terms of all the Asian indices. So that is largely what you're looking at in terms of the handover. Markets across the board tumbling, except Hang Seng also holding on to just a little bit of green at the moment as well. Now, back home, of course, we shut shop around the 23,688 levels. So, sub those 23,700 levels, and currently, in terms of what is expected and what is being penciled in, we're expecting a start just above those levels as well. So, quite the muted start that we're looking at, Priyanka.
Actually, it's a Fed inflation worries, which is signaling that scenario maybe that could be higher for long. Interest rate scenario could be higher for longer. That's what is actually creating nervousness among markets globally. And Asia Pacific is also picking those cues only. But let's get you what is in there for the TM for the show ahead. So what you can look up to at 9:20, we speak to Rana Gupta, who's a senior portfolio manager who handles the India equity. He's a specialist on Manulife investment management. We talk about the commodity cycle and, of course, what is in that the fund managers at this point in time are picking up. At 9:30, we speak to Jashandeep Chadda, who's a CFA and equity research analyst. He tracks cement and metals for Nomura to understand the project pipeline ahead. And at 9:40, we speak to Amar Maisur from Brigade Group on their new launches and new announcements. And of course, the kind of action we've seen in primary market at 9:50, we speak to Pranav Haldia, who's an MD from Prime Database, on the upcoming IPOs.
Other than that's a power-packed lineup lined up for you on the market.
Welcome back. You're tuned into Market Cafe on ET Now. I'm Priyanka, along with me, Shansi. Moving on, the countdown to the 2025 budget is on, and with just over 3 weeks to go, the Finance Ministry is in full swing, meeting with industry bigwigs to fine-tune the final details. Yesterday, Secretary of the Department of Financial Services sat down with the movers and shakers of the microfinance world. And did they have a lot to say? Top of their wish list, yes, a GST waiver on co-lending activities, because who would not want a little tax relief to make lending smoother? They are also asking for a better funding mechanism for the smaller microfinance institutions, the smaller MFIs, which could be a game changer for those on the lower rungs of the ladder. And let's not forget the plea for a relook at the RBI's new asset qualifying norms, something they feel could use a bit of tweaking. It's all part of the pre-budget chatter that's heating up as industries across the board vie for a spot in the Finance Ministry's good books. Will the microfinance sector get their way? We will have to wait and watch, see what the budget brings in. But we did speak to some key people in this. Sadhan's top boss, Gigi Mammon, spoke to ET Now about the meeting and their key asks from the Finance Ministry. Listen.
We made a presentation and we said what is the kind of contribution microfinance is making to the society, to the economy, and how it is helping in the financial inclusion. But then, unfortunately, because of certain issues, one is that funding requirement of the microfinance institutions are a challenge at the moment, because getting loans from the banks and development finance institutions are a little challenging for especially the mid-size and smaller size MFIs. So we requested for a dedicated funding for microfinance institution, number one. Number two, maybe a credit guarantee mechanism so that MFIs can borrow much more easily from the banks and DFIs. Third one is probably a equity funding mechanism for the smaller MFIs so that they can grow and they can expand their operations. So these are the three things. And there was also a request for a separate fund for Northeastern region because of the kind of troubles they are facing. So you should have, and the kind of banking facilities they have. Probably MFI can play a major role if they can get some funding support.
Anything with regard to regulation, the recent RBI regulation?
That is, in recent regulation, we also discussed about the definition of qualifying assets. In definition of qualifying assets, it was changed from net assets to the total assets in the new regulatory framework. although the percentage has been increased from 85% to 75% for the non-qualifying part. But because of the changed definition, that benefit is not getting accrued for many of the MFIs. So probably a relook to that is required.
Okay, and one last thing, that is with regard to co-lending activities. There was an issue related to the GST waiver on co-lending activities. So, did you raise this issue?
Yeah, that was also raised, and Secretary has asked for a detailed note on that.
Rather than that was the word coming in from Sadhan's ED and CEO, but some relief coming in for Manappuram subsidiary, Ashirwad Microfinance and DMI Finance as well. In fact, the RBI has lifted those supervisory curbs that were imposed back in October last year. Let's go across to Anjali, who's standing by with more details. Anjali, tell us a little more about this. When were these curbs imposed and why were they lifted then?
So the RBI has lifted its supervisory restrictions on Manappuram Finance subsidiary, Ashirwad Microfinance and the NBFC DMI Finance, and these restrictions were on the sanctioning and dispersal of loans that were imposed on these two and two other companies on October 21st last year. Now the RBI says that it is satisfied with the compliances that have been submitted and the adoption of revamped systems by both of these companies. Additionally, RBI says that following their commitment to regulatory guidelines including fairness in loan pricing, these restrictions have been removed. Now the RBI had imposed these restrictions citing high interest rates being charged by two microfinance companies and two NBFCs. The other two, which is Navi Finserv and Arohan Financial Services, also had submitted their compliances and they had the restrictions lifted earlier on 2nd of December and January 3rd respectively. And now Manappuram Finance subsidiary Ashirwad and DMI have also had these restrictions lifted.
Okay, so let's see how these stocks react now. But then moving on, government has revised its gold imports data downwards for November month, announcing sharp reduction of $5 billion. Now, the revised figure stands at $9.84 billion. Earlier, it was estimated at $14.86 billion. Now, this correction comes after an earlier calculation error that inflated the data to a record $14.86 billion. Now, April to November gold imports are now estimated at $37.39 billion. The earlier announced figure was $49.08 billion.
Well, absolutely, and that's the figure coming in as far as gold is concerned. But moving on then, after some Indian gaming companies filed a plea against GST notices in the Supreme Court, the Apex Court has now set a date for the hearing. That is January 10th. The companies, in fact, are seeking a stay on the show cause notices from the taxman. Harish Salve will be representing the companies in the court. That includes Games 24/7, Jungly Games, Head Digital Works, EGF as well. So far, the companies have served multiple show cause notices for GST evasion worth rupees 1 lakh crore. So that's the latest update as far as that is concerned. The date for the hearing for those companies is slated to be January 10th.
All right. In the meantime, an important development coming in for the railways that are set to be the big relief and this is going to be a big relief, could be possibly for stocks like BHEL, Titagarh Rail Systems. The issues pertaining to Vande Bharat sleeper train contracts will be resolved finally. Sameer is here with more exclusive details on that. Sameer.
Important and interesting move related to Bharat Heavy Electricals Limited, Titagarh Rail Systems and Indian Railways. Sources have informed that the issues pertaining to the Vande Bharat sleeper-based train, it has largely been resolved. Let me share you the background. So basically, Titagarh Rail System and BHEL, they formed a consortium and won a contract to manufacture 80 sleeper-based Vande Bharat train, and that was to be delivered to railways till 2029 at the cost of rupees 120 crore per break. But then the discussion at that stage included that the train set will have 16 coaches. Later on, railways directed the consortium that they have to make 24 coaches with a certain design change as well. And this led to the rise of an issue, the ongoing discussions between the consortium and the railway ministry that delayed the entire progress of the Vande Bharat sleeper-based train. But now, after a detailed discussion, a long discussion between the ministry and the consortium, now the issues has been resolved and things have been settled on few important things. Sources have informed that now 24 coach-based train will be manufactured by the consortium as directed by Railways. But yes, no major design changes will be done. So design changes will not be there. But yes, the rake or the train set will have 24 coaches. Second important thing is that no cost escalation. So what was the cost that was decided earlier? The cost is going to remain the same. But yes, a relief that has been given to the consortium, that they have been given an extended timeline of around 3 years to deliver these 80 sleeper-based Vande Bharat train. So now the things largely it has been resolved, and now the consortium led by Bhel and Titagarh rail system, they can focus on the manufacturing and enhancing their capabilities. And this will be a good sign for railways as well, that they will be getting more and more Vande Bharat sleeper-based trains for the passengers on tracks.
Alright, and some relief is in store when it comes to those railway counters, Sameer. But while you're with us, we also learned from sources that the government may be looking to announce safety regulations for heavy vehicles, then move, of course, largely aimed at reducing the number of road accidents in the country. Tell us a little more about that as well.
Amid the rising concerns to improve the road safety, the government is considering to come up with the new norms for the heavy vehicles. The Road Transport Ministry is considering the installation of 3 safety devices in the heavy vehicles, and these 3 safety devices include the electronic stability device, the emergency braking system, and the drowsiness safety and the alarm system. The drowsiness safety and the alarm system, it stops the driver from dozing off at the wheel. So that's the important device that the government is looking to introduce. And the electronic stability or the emergency braking system will help the driver to control the vehicle when it is going off the speed, at high speed it is running, or when it is not controlled properly. So these 3 safety devices are going to be installed in the heavy vehicles. At this stage, there is an active consultation going on with the stakeholders, and what we are picking up from our sources that the draft notification is likely to be issued by the ministry very soon. The government is looking to make this new norm mandatory for the heavy vehicles manufacturers, and these new norms, the introduction of the new norms are aimed to improve the road safety. Government understands that the installation of the safety device will help to not just reduce the road accident where the heavy vehicles, specifically buses and trucks, are involved, but also this will help to improve the driver's safety as well.
Thanks very much, Sameer. Keep us updated on this. Thank you for this piece of news at this moment. Moving on, rocket scientist V. Narayanan has been appointed as the next ISRO chairman. Union government has announced that Narayanan will succeed S. Somnath as chairman of ISRO. V. Narayanan will serve this role for next 2 years until next notice. Times Network Deepak Bopanna spoke to him about future mission in ISRO. Listen into this conversation.
I consider it as a great privilege and honor to get this important assignment, and it is so heartening that Honorable Prime Minister is having great faith on me and the entire organization with that he has given. So I have to be so grateful to, first of all, Honorable Prime Minister. And I am sure with the type of working culture, team available in ISRO, we will take forward the space activities to much, much greater heights.
Well, you're here in Bengaluru. Tomorrow there's a big event that is lined up as well, the docking of the SpaceX satellites. This is something that is considered as a big event, considering the fact that only 3 other countries have done it before. Even as far as Chandrayaan was concerned, India, of course, joined the big league of Russia, of US and China. Tomorrow, once again, this is another opportunity. Apart from this, you know, there are multiple other missions, and all of this will fall upon your shoulder, isn't it, sir?
It is not on me alone. Yeah. It is on 17,500 team of ISRO. Yeah. The entire responsibility is there. And with the entire team together, we are going to execute the activities for serving this country. In fact, as you rightly told, tomorrow we are having an important the SpaceX docking experiment, which is going to pave way for the future missions like Chandrayaan 4, the space station building, future sending human being to moon. Because for building the space station, for example, we cannot use big rockets to send the entire space station. We have to take small models and dock in the space.
Alright, and that was the word coming in from the top boss at ISRO now. But time now for a very quick breather on the show. When we come back, we'll get you more news and updates, so don't go anywhere. Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying tuned in. Time now to get you the futures and options roundup then, and Ansh is standing by with just that. Ansh, over to you.
Right, so in the previous session, Nifty had actually dipped below that 23,500 mark on intraday basis, but then we saw a very smart recovery from there by around 170, 180 points to take Nifty around those flat level. But if you talk about today's session, then we are seeing an index option, very active call writing have been happening at the 23,900 mark, indicating some strong resistance around this level, which is 200 points away from current level. Also today we have index option expiry, so we may see some good volatility in the market. Now, if you talk about Nifty Bank, the Nifty Bank in the previous session closed in red, hitting 6-month low level, indicating bearish sentiment. Also in index future, we are seeing that open interest has gone up by more than 2%, indicating short build-up. Now, if you talk about index futures, then FII in the previous session have added some long per around 1,500 contract, but in against that, we are seeing that they have added more than 18,000 short contract, due to which the total long position has gone to 19.2% from 19.8%, and this is the 9-10 session where we are seeing that FI total long position is below 20%. On the flip side, if you talk about retail position, then they have actually added around 17,000 long contract and they have covered around 11,000 contract. So net to net basis, they are seeing addition of almost 29,000 contract. So they are getting very positive in the market.
Thanks very much, Ansh, for that roundup on FNO, on the positioning of FIs as well as the retail. But then now Gaurav is standing by to help us understand the stocks that could be buzzing into trade today on the basis of course, the business updates and the news flow. Gaurav.
Well, yes, let's begin our list today with the Tata Motors, because JLR has come up with their quarterly updates. When we talk about third quarter's number, the wholesale numbers have gone up almost by 3% on a YOY basis. Although the retail numbers have come down, what was the positive point here is that the most profitable models, which are Range Rover Sports and Defender's share has increased to 70%. So on the back of this, Tata Motors will be in focus. Other than that, Lupin is also going to be in focus, because this company has received EIR with inspection classified as voluntary action indicated from US FDA for one of their facilities, which is situated in Pithampur. Now this facility manufactures both API and finished products, and on the back of this stock is also going to be in focus. NMDC is yet another counter which will be in focus, because this company has now announced price changes. For lumps, they will be charging around 6,000 rupees per ton, which is a decline of around 6% on a YOY basis, and at the same from a previous price, my apologies, and at the same time for fines they will be charging around 5,060 rupees. Other than that, BHEL is also going to be in focus, because this company has successfully commissioned 2 units at one of their hydroelectric projects, which is situated in Bhutan. Lastly, we also have PI Industries, which will be in focus, because this company has received an order from Commissioner of Customs, and this order is worth 38.9 crore rupees along with the penalty of 43 crore rupees, and these dues are because of the dispute under custom tariff. So definitely on the sentimental levels, this stock is going to be in focus. So definitely watching out on all these companies on the back of the news flow that we have received in the morning.
And Gaurav, thanks for that update coming in. Those are the stocks that you should then be watching out for. In terms of what else you should be watching out for, let's take a quick look at the handover that we then have coming in from the Asian markets. When you take a look at Nikkei, some of those losses have deepened. In fact, 0.8% decline is what you're looking at least as far as the Nikkei is concerned. Let's also take a quick check going on Australia's ASX 200, because that's the one that's been holding on to losses since this morning as well. 0.6% downtick is something that this one is also holding on to. When you take a look at South Korea's Kospi as well, that is also holding on to a tinge of red as we speak as well. 0.6% decline coming in for South Korea's Kospi. When you take a look at Shanghai as well, tinge of red coming in there as well, because even with Shanghai, you do have a 0.5% downtick that one is holding on to. And Hang Seng, that's the one that was marginally in the green earlier. Let's see what that one is doing, because last I checked, when you take a look at the Hang Seng as well, previously it was holding on to some of those gains coming in, and currently it's deepened those gains, holding on to 0.3% uptick coming in as far as Hang Seng is then concerned. Now, of course, back home, we shut shop around the 23,688 levels, and currently this was obviously sub those 23,700 levels, and what is expected is a move, is a start, in fact, just a tad bit above this. So subdued move is what we're penciling in as far as this one is concerned. So largely that's what the handover then looks like, at least as far as Asian markets then are concerned. But we also caught up with Rahul Chadha as well, who's the founder and CIO at Shikara Investment Management, on his take on the India story and the sectors that he's then positive on. Let's go across and listen in to what he then had to say.
Traditional IT services players embrace AI. So if you look at what these likes of Infosys, TCS, Cognizant are doing, these are embracing AI to offer better value to their customers. So this is superior data analytics. So a lot of pilots are happening. Our sense is the next stage over next 2-3 years is going to be these pilots, pilot projects going into large scale commercial projects, and that's where the benefits is. If you look at how top 100 corporates globally has embraced AI, it's phenomenal. I mean, we've seen papers all over talk about Microsoft's capex, which is $80 billion for next year, and they're investing in India. But they're not alone. You've got Facebook doing the same, Google doing the same thing. More importantly, I think the top 100 corporates are taking AI spends as a part of their R&D productivity spends. And you can buy all this capacity, computing capacity at the Microsoft servers, but the customization has to be done by the IT services guy.
All right, quite an interesting conversation with Rahul Chadha. But moving on, let's get you some news from across the globe. Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri met the acting Taliban Foreign Minister in Dubai for the first time and put his seal on a brand new engagement between Delhi and Kabul. Both sides discussed India's ongoing humanitarian assistance to Afghanistan, bilateral issues and even security situation in the region. And back home in India, at least 6 people were killed and several others injured after a stampede broke out at Tirupati temple during the distribution of darshan tokens. The chaos erupted near the darshan ticketing centre, where a massive crowd had gathered to secure tokens for the 10-day Vaikuntha Dwara Darshanam, which is set to begin from tomorrow. Meanwhile, Andhra Pradesh CM Chandrababu Naidu expressed deep shock over the devotee's death in the stampede. And on to another somber news. In a tragic event, veteran journalist, poet and filmmaker Pritish Nandi passed away at the age of 73 in Mumbai. He died after a cardiac arrest. Pritish Nandi was conferred with the Padma Shri in 1977 for his contributions in Indian literature. His company PNC made films like Sur Chameli, Hazaro Khwahishein Aisi and also produced the web series 4 More Shots, Please.
Alright, then moving on, ISRO's ambitious space docking experiment hits another roadblock. The space agency, in fact, has announced that the docking was postponed for a second time after Tuesday's landing was delayed due to excessive drift during a crucial maneuver as well. The space docking experiment was supposed to take place today after it was delayed on January 7th. Alright, moving on, then the BCCI will soon unveil the squad for the upcoming Champions Trophy in Pakistan and the UAE. After a disappointing tour to Australia, the Ajit Agarkar-led selection committee is likely to drop some big names, the likes of KL Rahul, Mohammad Shami as well as Ravindra Jadeja from the 15-member squad. Arshdeep Singh and Shreyas Iyer will be in contention for a spot in the ODI squad after good show in the domestic cricket as well.
All right, with this, it's a wrap on this edition of Market Cafe. Let's see the shade of red coming in from the Asia Pacific market. Do gets extend to India or not here right now? Gift Nifty indicates a slower start. It's a wrap. Thank you so much for watching.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now.